Ramaphosa said the G7 should support the efforts of the Global South to create a fair, just and inclusive global order that would foster sustainable development for all.
Well, we've just concluded our visit to Canada to attend the G7 summit. It's been most meaningful for us, particularly as we are the president of the G20. We've had the opportunity to interact with a number of heads of states and government of various countries. And the issues that we put on the table is the issue of climate change and how important it should be treated by the global community with regard to our just energy transition, and also what we intend to achieve out of the G20 with regard to climate change, the financing thereof, but more particularly how we deal with the after effects of climate change, particularly the floods that we've been suffering from, where a number of our people have died, as well as the destruction of infrastructure. We put that firmly on the global agenda, that there should be sufficient funding for incidents such as those as they happen on a repeated basis, particularly in our sub-region, in SADC, but more importantly, in two of our provinces, KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, have suffered over just the past few years repeated incidents of destruction from floods and also droughts in part of the Western Cape. We also discussed the issue of critical minerals. We discussed the importance of how our critical minerals should be treated, particularly in view of the fact that they play such an important role in energy security, and that the extraction of minerals from African countries and our own country particularly should be made more to be not only extractive, but also to have value add, where beneficiation becomes the order of the day.
He also welcomed a strengthening of ties with Canada, calling their Africa strategy comprehensive with the potential for cooperation in areas where there was alignment with the African agenda.
If you blinked, you probably missed it. President Cyril Ramaphosa just wrapped up a whirlwind 3-day diplomatic adventure in the frosty, postcard-perfect landscapes of Canada. But this wasn't a holiday or some ski lodge retreat. Nope, the man was there doing big things, representing South Africa at the G7 Leaders Outreach Summit in the stunning region of Kananaskis. And guess what? He was the only African head of state invited. That's right, South Africa stood solo as the continent's voice in a room packed with global powerhouses. Talk about flying the flag high. Now, before we dive deeper, let's pause for a moment to really appreciate the setting. Kananaskis is the kind of place that looks like a Windows screensaver. Towering snow-capped mountains, mirror-like lakes, forests so dense they make Kruger Park look like a bonsai garden. But Ramaphosa wasn't there for the scenery. The man came with a mission. As G20 President, he was there to make sure Africa's energy future wasn't left out in the cold, pun fully intended. So what was this summit all about? One phrase: energy security. And let me tell you, the stakes are sky high. With the world facing everything from fuel price shocks to geopolitical tensions, energy security has become the hot potato of global policy. Everybody wants it, nobody has enough of it, and everyone's looking sideways at their neighbors wondering who's hoarding the potatoes. Ramaphosa's message was clear: Africa can't be a passive player in this conversation. He stood up and said, "Hey, we've got the sun, we've got the wind, and yes, we've got the brains too. But what we need is investment, technology transfer, and access to global markets." And honestly, it was refreshing to see someone not just talking about African problems, but African potential. He also reminded the G7 leaders, most of whom are grappling with their own energy crises, that global security is only as strong as its weakest link. You can't build a secure energy future and leave out an entire continent. That's like building a fortress and forgetting to put a lock on the back door. Now, you know diplomacy isn't all about speeches and handshakes. Behind the scenes, Ramaphosa held bilateral meetings with key figures. And word on the street is that he didn't just charm the socks off his hosts, he might have opened the door for some serious cooperation deals down the line. Energy partnerships, climate tech innovation, maybe even some cross-continental research projects. These aren't just nice photo ops. They're real steps towards South Africa becoming a global player in the green energy revolution. But let's be real, this kind of summit also gives leaders a chance to read the global room. And Ramaphosa, he walked into that room with confidence. Remember, South Africa is not just a G20 member, it's a country with one foot in the developing world and another reaching toward the global stage. So when Ramaphosa speaks, he's not just speaking from Mzansi. He's echoing the ambitions of an entire continent ready to leap forward. Of course, it wouldn't be a South African political moment without a bit of spice. Back home, some critics question whether this trip was worth it, especially with load shedding still lurking like an uninvited guest. But here's the thing. Solving load shedding isn't going to happen without international cooperation. You need foreign investment. You need partnerships. You need to be in the room where decisions are made. And Ramaphosa made sure South Africa wasn't just in the room, but at the table. And just imagine, our president in a heavy coat and snow boots, rubbing shoulders with world leaders, sipping fair trade coffee while casually dropping facts about the Just Energy Transition Partnership. It's not just about optics. It's about positioning South Africa where it belongs, at the heart of global discussions.